is your prayer?
On police to investigate, to ensure compliance. First is to urge the Inspector General of Police to investigate and prosecute all those who were killed. Then we're also asking the National Security and Intelligence Agency to investigate where these weapons are coming from. They start with, are there end user authorization from the supposed authorities who are supposed to authorize the use of weapons in this country? So those are our prayers. Let these things be investigated. So and then we are calling on the police committee and the other committee to ensure compliance.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Clerk, please make sure the resolution goes out to the IG of police immediately. Yeah. Honorable Buba. Oh, sorry, Honorable Megari.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. I come under for the 8 to 4.
Please speak to the mic because I think the issue is very important.
Mr. Speaker, I came under for the 8 to 4 matter of urgent public importance. I move that this House suspend our relevant rules to allow me take this motion as a matter of urgent public importance. Let's move. Motion calling on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to implement the provision of the Appropriation Act 2022, which empowers Nigerian embassies and High Commission across the world to spend the capital component of their budget without recourse to the headquarters of the ministries.
Honorable Maki.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues. I am Abubakar Maki Elleman. I'm from Jigawa State. I represent Malamudori Kaugama Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I stand to second the motion heavily moved by my honorable colleague. I so second. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Those in support, please say aye. Those against, say nay. Ayes have it. Megari, move your motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. Kasim Bello Maigaria, my names. I speak for the entire people of Jalingo, Yoro, Zin Federal Constituency. I'm from Taraba State. A motion calling on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to implement the provision of the 2022 Appropriation Act, which empowers Nigerian embassies, High Commission across the world to spend the capital component of their budget without recourse to the ministries, to the headquarters of the ministry. The House, note that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is one of the ministries of the federal government of Nigeria through which government carries the day-to-day function of the administration of government for the good security and welfare of the citizenry. Also note that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs equally played other specialized roles that promote and regulate how Nigeria and Nigerians are seen and perceived across the globe community, especially through activities in our embassies and High Commission, which carry out the consular and diplomatic function in all areas of our life, of our national life. Aware that for a very long time, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs headquarters had been steeped in various practice, action and inaction that have negatively affected the quality service delivery in the ministry, and especially at posts where the nation's image has been largely impoverished by untoward media report and other negative realities in the public domain that reveal the inability of the ambassadors, high commissioners who are representative of Mr. President to settle ground rent, pay utility bills, purchase vehicles, or rehabilitate dilapidated infrastructure in the Century Building and quarters occupied by the foreign service officers across the globe. Also aware that Nigerian foreign mission and service officers have been at the receiving end of the negative effect of the action and inaction of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs headquarters, which have sometimes resulted in hiring taxis for diplomats on official duties and in the forceful rejection of ambassadors, high commissioners, and other foreign services officers from rented apartments, which their personal effects and other properties thrown into the street of capital cities of the world.
Please read that again.
Huh? Okay. Okay. Which have sometimes resulted in hiring taxis for diplomats on the official duties, and in the forceful rejection of ambassadors, high commissioners, and other foreign service officers from rented apartments, which their personal effect and other property thrown into the street of the capital cities of the world. Even when ambassadors, high commissioners have budgeted capital funds laying unutilized in the various accounts, concerned that the root of official bottleneck, which have continued to perpetrate all the negative things that go in our foreign services and mission across the globe, might, despite the magnanimity of Mr. President and the effort of the National Assembly to make things better, continue if this House failed to do the needful. Stop that the section of the 2022 Appropriation Act, which was carefully drafted by the legislature and assented by the Mr. President to address the road, legislative and official inertia that have been identified as bound to the development of our foreign service and mission, is now being challenged by some officials of government and unpatriotic individuals at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs headquarters, worried that if the effrontery and impunity of these officials in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that are so flagrantly challenging a law signed by Mr. President, using devised means, including writing of letters to counter provision of an existing piece of law, are allowed to go unaddressed, we may wake up one morning, God forbid, to hear that the National Assembly have been sacked by the mere letter of one senior government official in the Ministry of Government. Resolved, all the Ministry of Foreign Affairs headquarters to expressly comply with the provision of Section 11 of the 2022 Appropriation Act, powers of the Nigerian embassies and mission, and report those compliance to the House within 1 week. All the ministry to rescind content of the letter, countering an earlier letter written by the House Committee on Foreign Affairs to the Honorable Minister and the embassies, high commissioners, to request compliance with the provision of Section 11 of the 2022 Appropriation Act. Mandate the House Committee of Foreign Affairs to ensure compliance. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Olododo, do you want a second? Very quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. I remain Honorable Cook Olododo Abdugani, representing the people of Ilori East, Ilori South Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Kwara State, State of Harmony. I rise to second the motion ably raised by my brother. I so second.
Thank you. I just want the chairman, Foreign Affairs, to comment on this, but Honorable, you're raising your hand.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I remain Honorable Ndodi Godwin Elmelu, and I represent the good people of Anoche Shimili Federal Constituency. I'm from Delta State. Mr. Speaker, the motion is okay. The intention to ensure that budget passed by us or by National Assembly is judiciously implemented is also a very good innovation. But my worry is why I'm standing up. For us to find out whether in this instance, where a budget has been passed, assented to by Mr. President, and now there's a motion coming up to discuss on the issue of non-implementation, which has resulted in us bringing it here to ask the embassies singly to independently implement their budget without recourse to the ministry. I want the chairman or the mover to explain further educating us as to whether from the budget, was there a note explaining that these monies appropriated are having subheads of all the embassies? If that is possible, then it means that the ministry itself is violating the appropriation law.
I think, yeah, you might be confusing the issues. I think the motion was very clear. Let me try and explain the motion, and then the chairman, Foreign Affairs. The motion is this, that this House and the National Assembly as a whole, in its Appropriation Act of 2022, passed, included a clause which says that all embassies, Nigerian embassies around the world, can expend monies appropriated, capital appropriated to them without recourse to the ministry. And then thereafter, it appears that the ministry, despite the fact that the Appropriation Act is now a law, and Section 11 is part of that law, the ministry has now written to all the embassies or whoever, the permanent secretary, not to follow or not to obey Section 11, not to obey the law. And I don't want to believe that. I don't want to believe that that is happening, that any ministry will have the effrontery to write and say, don't obey the law. I refuse to believe that. If you disagree with the law, there are ways and processes, not for you to willy-nilly on your own, the permanent secretary for that matter, to write to the embassies. Now the question is that what is the reason for this law in the first place? What is the reason why Section 11 was included? He has explained some of it, but that's just even a tip of the iceberg. I have been around the embassies, the several embassies. The chairman of Foreign Affairs, this House had him go around to a few embassies to take samples. He went even on his own dime. And the stories, you'll be aghast as to the stories you hear. And we cannot be here and let the embassies that represent us go through what they're going through just because of certain things that they've told the chairman, which I'm sure he can elaborate. I'll leave it at that for now. Let the chairman elaborate. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I want to agree and accept that your submission is what is going on. If that is the case, Mr. Speaker, there should be a public hearing.
A what?
There should be a public hearing or investigative hearing on, please, I still have the floor. There should be an investigative hearing on the issue that the ministry, where that letter written by the PAMSEC will be brought before that investigative hearing to ascertain that a PAMSEC will have that audacity to circumvent the law. It's a very grievous offense, and he will need to explain, because I know when you circumvent the law, when you do that, there is a penalty for that. And if that is what is there, it's not just enough for us to say direct the embassies. We should go further to ensure that the man that has committed that crime is brought to book. This is my own submission.
Thank you very much, Honorable Elumelu. But I'll let the chairman clarify some things, and then even I have one or two questions. But chairman, if I may ask this, departments and agencies under ministries, are they, I believe they are allowed to spend their capital.
Yes, of course.
They are.
Yes, sir.
But so why should the embassies be an exemption? But go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Yusuf Buba Yakub. I represent Gombe Home Federal Constituency from Adamawa State. As you said, Mr. Speaker, this is already a law. That clause has been added to the 2022 Appropriation Act, and it has been assented to by Mr. President. So as we speak, it is a law that must be obeyed until
if it is changed in the future. Mr. Speaker, I want to commend your leadership and also the entire members of the House for that intervention, because, Mr. Speaker, our embassies have become laughingstock all over the world. Our embassies are so dilapidated that our ambassadors cannot invite their fellow ambassadors to the residences or to the Nigerian house in the countries.
I think it's important we listen to the chairman of Foreign Affairs, please.
All over the world. Mr. Speaker, it has reached a stage where, as the mover of the motion mentioned, that our ambassadors sometimes hire taxis, or sometimes the vehicles break down and they have to remove the flag and hide so that the shame will be covered. Mr. Speaker, we have visited so many embassies all over the world. Even in November, when we went to Niger, I entered the toilet of the ambassador's office. The toilet was blocked, water was everywhere. And Niger is a country in the desert. There was no functional AC in that embassy. And this is the issue all over. In Washington, Mr. Speaker, when we visited Washington, the cooling system in that building was not working. And we found Nigerians who have come with children to seek for consular services, removing their clothes because of heat, because it was a hot period. And they started shouting at us that what type of a country is this? Just for the cooling system to be repaired in the embassy in Washington, D.C., Mr. Speaker. And then the problem is, when we went for oversight in the 2020 to the ministry, and we entered the registry, we found letters in the registry that are up to 6 months. Letters written by the embassies to the minister or to the National Assembly or to the PAMSEC, 6 months. I think one Honorable Nicholas was the one that picked some of those letters, so many of those letters. So ambassadors, when we ask them, why are you not keeping your embassies up to date? They will say, we have written to the ministries for like 6 months, 1 year. Mr. Speaker, we have so many countries that have funds in their capital expenditure. These funds are appropriated to them directly by the National Assembly. Countries like Berlin, countries like Algiers, Jakarta, Dakar, Beirut, Bata, and so many of them have funds for up to 4 years in their accounts. And charges, banks all put on their charges. These monies are being wasted. But just for them to get approval from the ministry has become an issue. When we went to Cameroon, where the former Chief of Defense Staff is serving, in his residence, a fence that is not up to 50 meters fell. But officers have to be sent from Abuja, pay their tickets, pay extra codes, and they will go to see it, come back to report to the ministry before approval will be given for that fence to be repaired. So the case is so bad, Mr. Speaker, and that unfortunately, after the House have done due diligence and have imputed this clause 11, the ministry started putting resistance. And I wrote the minister, this is the letter on the 18th, I wrote the minister to try to allow this law to take its place so that it will be implemented. But on the 19th, I also wrote all the embassies to take note of this law. But on the 20th, the ministry wrote a letter to all the embassies that they should not honor the letters written by the National Assembly. They should hold on with implementing the law until they make further consultation with other agencies of government. This is already a law, Mr. Speaker. So I don't expect the ministry to resist implementing this law until otherwise. If they don't want the law, they should lobby for amendment. But as it is now, it is a law and it should be implemented. And so, Mr. Speaker, we have to take this matter very seriously. I have a case in Namibia where the ambassador was locked up in a room. She is a lady. Locked up in a room by the finance attaché. When she writes a check to purchase a vehicle, the accountant cancelled it. And when her tenure finished, they now brought back the accountant that has retired for like 3-4 months to go back there and spend that money they refused to give approval for. That was, the ambassador gave testimony during our public hearing, and it was open. It's not a hearsay. And we brought in the accountant himself, and we established those facts. So these things are happening, and it's so dirty that I think this house must stand its feet so that this law subsists. And another complaint, sir, is that they are now saying that this law is not consistent with the Procurement Act. But as of before now, the embassies have been approving the spending of their overhead and personnel costs. And even if they are authorized by law to spend their capital, they will also have to follow due process. They have to follow the provisions of the Act before they spend the money. So this resistance is just for personal gains, and I want to move that this House should ask the ministry to make sure that they obey this law. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, I don't want to open this debate only because it's a very important matter, but because we have to adjourn at 12:30 and we have at least 2 more motions. I think it's very clear. They say it's against the Public Procurement Act, but does the law say that the embassy should not go through public procurement? And what does the Constitution say about monies appropriated by the National Assembly? I believe the Constitution says that no money can be spent except in a manner as prescribed by the National Assembly. And this is the manner the National Assembly has prescribed that this money is being spent. And for good reason, many of which both the sponsor of the motion and the chairman finance have enumerated. I have seen personal experience of in many of our embassies abroad, and it's a crying shame. It's a crying shame that the National Assembly is trying to make things better for those who we send out to represent us, and some people are resisting. Yes. I really need to move on. Go ahead, 1 minute. I really need to move on.
All right, Mr. Speaker, my name is Herman Himbi. Mine is very brief. You see, being that this is a straightforward matter, you have already made a pronouncement from there saying that constitutional provisions should be followed and the instructions of the House as in the budget should be followed. We don't need to go into issues of public hearings or wasting time. He can simply go ahead and do his job and enforce what needs to be enforced. That's just my...
Yeah, I don't think this requires a public hearing. The facts are very clear. Please, Honorable Buba, have the PERMSEC and the Minister of Foreign Affairs also see me on Tuesday in the office. And I would like to have you in attendance as well. So those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable Elubelu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I remain Honorable Ndudi Godwin Elmelu, and I represent the good people of Anocho Shimilfera Concern from Delta State. The House notes the concerns of Nigerians over the recurring incidents of fuel scarcity. This House is concerned about the huge sums of money being paid as subsidies and the controversies it has been generating. The House is worried. What? Did you move? Is we are on other paper. Before the interruption, she came late, so she didn't know what happened before. The House is concerned about the huge sums of my mic, please. Okay. The House is concerned about the huge sums of money being paid as subsidies and the controversies it has been generating. The House is worried that it may not be possible to ascertain the actual sums of subsidy required and being paid without accurate data of the daily consumption of premium motor spirit in Nigeria, in bracket PMS. The House acknowledges that when such data is generated, it will enhance effective planning, supply, and distribution of the said product to Nigerians. The House therefore resolved to set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the actual daily consumption of premium motor spirits in Nigeria and report back within 8 weeks for further legislative action. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Okay, Honorable Osai, okay, just a second. No. This matter was, we've done with it yesterday. We're just formalizing. We've already dealt with this matter yesterday, please. Please. We've dealt with this matter yesterday. You were here, were you not? We are just bringing a motion to formalize it. Who's going to second the motion, please? Honorable Nalaraba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Abubakar Hassan Nalaraba is my name. I represent the good people of Awedo, Makana Federal Constituency. I am from Nasarawa State. I rise to second the motion ably moved by the Minority Leader, Honorable Ndidi Olumelu. I so second.
Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. The second matter which we dealt with yesterday was on the issue of the fuel consumption and how much we consume per day. Honorable Kuye, can you move that, please?
Mr. Speaker, that is the motion that Minority Leader just moved. I think the second one is the need to ascertain the actual cost of rehabilitation of the Nigerian refineries.
Minority Leader, which motion did you move?
The consumption.
For consumption? Oh, okay.
Consumption.
All right. Go ahead.
All right. No, the non-functional. Mr. Speaker, my name is Ademori Aliu Kuye. I speak for the good people of Shomolu Federal Constituency, and I'm from Lagos State. Mr. Speaker, there is a motion calling for the need to ascertain the actual cost of rehabilitation of Nigeria refineries, know the non-functionality and deplorable state of the nation's refineries, also known that several billions of dollars of taxpayers' money has been expended into the turnaround, maintenance, and rehabilitation of the nation's refineries without any productive outcome. Observe that past government efforts have been sabotaged by variation costs from partners or lack of proper project costing and analysis. Cognizance of the government's intention to commence another phase of rehabilitation of the refineries, and if proper steps are not taken, the country may be plunged into repeating past mistakes. It was resolved to set up an ad hoc committee to ascertain the actual cost of rehabilitating the Nigerian refineries and report back within 6 weeks for legislative action. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Any seconder? Second.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I remain Henry Wauba, and I represent the enterprising people of Mbitoli Keduru Federal Constituency of Imo State. I rise to second the motion ably moved by Honorable Koye. I so second.
Okay, before we put the question, what's your point of order, Honorable Sai?
No, I can't. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I come under privilege. Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues. It is my privilege, Mr. Speaker, in line with Order 6, to hear clearly the man who is supposed to move this motion as gazetted in line with our rules. And the man gazetted to read this motion upon which I wanted to hear the merit of his case is not available. And another honorable member is reading this motion whose name is not gazetted in line with our rules and in line with the order of the House. So, Mr. Speaker,
Honorable side.
I'm coming. You are not
This man is not even on his seat. Mr. Speaker.
Okay, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, Honorable Sai said aye when the rules were suspended. I didn't see him negative the suspension of the rules.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kiruka. That's one point. The rules have been suspended. But to Honorable Sai's point, Honorable Elumelu, your submission has been made now. You said somebody else was reading it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am Honorable Ndodi Godwin Elumelu, and I represent the good people of our Church Military Concern from Delta State. Mr. Speaker, I think this House need to take it seriously in terms of people who come late to this chamber. Enough of Father Christmas on this floor. Mr. Speaker, when we commence this section, I brought a matter under privilege as to the effect that an issue came up yesterday and which was erroneously reported. And I was the one that initiated it. And that today again is now on the order paper. And you ruled that the rule be suspended to enable me to take my motion that I had brought yesterday. While we were doing it, Osai was not here. Neither was he in constitutional review. I don't want him to lie that he was a constitutional review because he's not a member. So he was neither in constitutional review, neither did he go for even the public hearing.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
He was not there.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
What's your point of order?
My point of order is that minority leader should not impute motive, and he should not use words.
Okay, I know that order. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But more importantly, Honorable Sai, please try and be punctual on or be present, not punctual, on the floor of the House. Yesterday, forget about today. Yesterday, if you were in the House, you know that this matter was taken. It was taken. So, it was taken wrongly? Then you should have objected at the time. It's too late in the day. And now we have corrected. Honorable, has it been seconded? Those in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it.
Your Excellency, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Victor Melat Anzaria. I represent the people of Balanga Plenary Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Gombe State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move a motion which says the need to curb the incessant killings, kidnappings, burning of properties in Plenary local government of Gombe State. The House notes that the recent illegal act of herdsmen/bandits have ravaged numerous communities across the country, ranging from killings, kidnapping, rape, burning of agricultural products, which have resulted in the death of residents and loss of unquantifiable products. Also note the ongoing systematic, carefully planned, and executed annihilation of peace-loving people in 11 villages of Kalmai, Baganje, Tanglang, Tal, and Tori districts of Plenary local government area of Gombe State by the bandits and an outlaw groups. Aware that the initial attack on those settlements was reported on December 6th, and subsequent attacks were recorded on 12th, 17th, 27th, and 29th December 2021. and January 20th, 2022, respectively, resulting in the death of 15 people, 20 people injured, 3 people kidnapped, and properties worth millions of naira destroyed by fire, thus rendering elderly, women, and children homeless. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I want to commend the Governor of Gombe State, His Excellency Alhaji Muhammadu Inuwa Yahya, for the prompt intervention when the communities were attacked by these bandits and herdsmen.
Honorable colleagues, please can you
Worried
take your seat?
about
Please
the
come
leaked
back.
intelligence report
Please, can you people take your seat?
dated 17 December 2021, addressed to the
I'll
Gombe
start
State
calling names.
Commandant of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps.
Honorable, can you hold on, honorable. Honorable colleagues, please can you people take your seat? Honorable Leke, please escort those honorable gentlemen. I don't want to call your names. Honorable, come back to your seat. You are stalling the House from proceeding. The House is on standstill because you are standing.
Sorry about that, Honorable Mela.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, worried about the leaked intelligence report dated 17 December 2021 addressed to the Gombe State Commandant of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, which had warned on the impending attack on Iliri local government, and unfortunately, 2 weeks after the leaked intelligence report, innocent people of Iliri were attacked by these bandits. Cognizant of the roles as representatives of the people to rise to the occasion and condemn the act of dehumanizing treatment meted on innocent citizens. Also worried that since the heinous criminal acts, no culprit has been arrested, nor the sponsors of the bandits traced, creating a hopeless situation for the people of Balanga Iliri Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, also cognizant of the need to ensure all resolutions passed on insecurity are fully and speedily implemented by the executive. The House resolved to observe a minute silence for the departed souls, urge the National Emergency Management Agency and the Northeast Development Commission to, as a matter of utmost urgency, provide relief material to the affected communities to ameliorate their sufferings. Also to urge the Inspector General of Police to swiftly look into the possibility of establishing a divisional police station in Tal District. Mandate the Committee on Interior to investigate the authenticity of the leaked intelligence report and the steps taken by the Gombe State Civil Defense Corps Command. Also mandate the committees on internally displaced persons, refugees, emergency and disaster preparedness, Northeast Development Commission and Police Affairs to ensure compliance. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, thank you. Honorable. Can you second, please?
Honorable Emmanuel, please approach the Chief Witness, please.
Sir Speaker, my name is
Dr. Shehu, come back.
I represent Ajeroni, fellow Federal Constituency. I'm from Lagos. I rise to second the motion as moved by my colleague. I so second.
Those in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it. We're going to take the last, today, Honorable Leke. I said 12:30, it's now 12:35. Please, very quickly.
Honorable Dauza. Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is Honorable Leke Abejide. I represent the good people of Yagba Federal Constituency. I am from Kogi State. Motion call on the Central Bank of Nigeria to suspend the implementation of the new guidelines on the introduction of e-evaluator e-invoicing for imports and export businesses in Nigeria. You have note that on 21st January 2022, the Central Bank of Nigeria issued a circular on guidelines on import and export businesses in Nigeria with reference number TED/FEM/FPC/PUB/01/001 to take effect from February 1st, 2022, 10 days after the issuance of the guidelines. Also notes that sudden monetary fiscal circular hurriedly or haphazardly implemented often lead to policy somersaults. Hence, major policy change such as this has a grace period of 90 days is usually expected for transaction to run its full course to avoid distortion in the economy and to avoid price distortion of trade. Worried that the Central Bank of Nigeria has gradually deviated from its primary function of monetary policy measures and bankers to government and concentrate more on fiscal policy measures, which is the function of the Federal Ministry of Finance. Concern, if the guidelines are not given adequate time to sensitize and acquaint the major ports of entry in the country for stakeholders and the general public to study the policy, it will distort prices of goods and services and create logjams for import and export, delay transactions, and consequently cause port congestion again. Because in the year 2020, the immediate implementation of NSP form authentication as a mandatory statutory document required to be completed by all exporters for shipment of goods outside the country resulted in crisis as most exporters' contracts were cancelled by their foreign buyers due to network issues and configuration of its portal, which takes more than 2 or 3 weeks to resolve, thus leading to massive financial loss to exporters in Nigeria. Worried that importers or exporters in the manufacturing, mining, and trading sector will be affected because, as the exemption indicated, that all export and import with a cumulative invoice value equal to or above $500,000 or is equivalent in foreign currency will be affected, which is practically impossible to have anyone below this value cumulatively. Disturbed that issues in the guidelines are contradictory. For instance, guidelines C and D contradict each other. While guideline C states that no importer or exporter may effect payment to direct or credit of any foreign supplier unless the electronic invoice has been authenticated by authorized dealers bank, presented together with the relevant document for payment. But guideline D states that content of the electronic invoice authenticated by authorized dealer bank is only advisory for Nigeria Customs Service. The House resolved to 1, urge the Central Bank of Nigeria to suspend the policy with immediate effect to enable adequate sensitization of the workability of the policy in all major ports of entry, including seaports, airports, and border stations. 2, invite Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria to brief the Committee on Custom and Excise with the assurances that the target revenue of 3.1 trillion given to Nigeria Customs Service by the federal government of Nigeria, which Nigeria Customs Service on its own increased the target to 4.2 trillion, will not be distorted by this sudden policy implementation. And finally, honorable colleagues, Your Excellency, also urge the Central Bank of Nigeria to always give days, 90 days timeline for subsequent new fiscal monetary policy implementation to allow for adjustment in order to stabilize the economy. I so move, Your Excellency, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues.
Honorable Babo.
Yes, Honorable Babo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. Amejaha Babao Junior is my name because we have the Monsignor Babao. I represent Chibok, Dambua, and Goza Federal Constituency. I am from Borno State. I rise to second a motion ably moved by Honorable Leke Abejide, Chairman House Committee on Customs. I hereby second. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Babo. Those in favor, please say amendment. Honorable Babangida.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name remains Honorable Babangida Ibrahim, representing Malamfashi, Kafur Federal Constituency. I'm from Katsina State. Mr. Speaker, I want to move an amendment to prayer number 2. Invite the Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria to brief the Committee on Custom and Excise and Committee on Banking and Currency, with the assurance that the target revenue of 3.1 trillion given to the Nigerian Coastal Service by the Federal Government of Nigeria, which the NCS announced to the media that they are targeting 4.2 trillion, will not be distorted by this certain policy implementation. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, any seconder? Kabiru, is that Kabiru? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues. I remain Honorable Kabir Idris, member representing Kura, Madobi, Garumal, and Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, I'm from Kano State. I rise to support this very important amendment raised by Honorable Babangida. I so support, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Those in favor, please say aye. Those against, say nay. Honorable Leke, but you are not opposing it. You are not opposing it. You are not opposing the amendment. He is not opposing. The ayes have it. Yes, time for adjournment. I said 12:30. It's 12:43. Hi, Honorable Kuya. Those in favor of the motion as amended, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable Kuya, please move for adjournment.
Mr. Speaker, leader, adjournment.
It's okay, we'll do it on Tuesday, no big deal.
Let's quickly check.
Check and let's be sure. No, I'll move. I'll move.
Oh, okay, leader.
Yes. First.
The great leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable members. Adodogwa is my name. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I represent the people of Tudunwada Dogwa Federal Constituency. And by the directive of the Speaker, I rise to move that this House do adjourn till Tuesday, the first day of February 2022 by 11 a.m. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I so move.
Those in favor of the motion for adjournment, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it.
Yes, sir.